What's going on, everybody? It's your host, Moose. It's another Friday night, week 9 of the NFL season coming up. $10 sports coming at you. Let's hit that intro.
10
Dollar
sports.
Yes, it's happy Friday night to everybody. Hope you're having a great Friday night. Recovering from Halloween, of course. Kind of a record-setting showing for us on Halloween here. It's our second Halloween in the house. Halloween kind of got rained out last year. We only had a handful of trick-or-treaters, but man, we had to have had at least 70 trick-or-treaters, 75, 80, maybe close to 100. We lost track. We quickly became that house that was giving away one piece of candy for Halloween. Thankfully, we made it to the end and didn't run out and didn't have to turn off the lights. But happy Halloween to everyone out there. Hope you had a great time. Didn't really do much dressing up for Halloween on the day, at least. We had a Halloween party, was it last weekend or so? And couple's costume of Costco workers, sample workers. So it was pretty cool because we got to integrate to the party and we were passing out samples, and it was pretty. We love Costco, so we took the inspiration from a couple of costumes we had seen on Pinterest. But nevertheless, let's talk sports. Welcome to $10 Sports with Moose. No Emrod today. He's getting ready for his venture into Seahawks country. He's heading up to Seattle and going to the Seahawks game. He'll be viewing that in person. I don't know if he picked that one today. We'll get to his picks in a little bit. The line is getting pretty close. I don't know. I don't know if the Bucks can win outright, but the line, when I took it earlier today, and it went down to a +6 for the Bucks, or a +5 to the Bucks. I think if I had gotten it at +6, I would have felt a lot more comfortable about it. But I still think the Bucks can keep it within 5. The Seahawks aren't blowing anyone's doors off this year, and especially with that kind of weird loss to the Saints, where they didn't look as well as they have most of the year. Played it close to the Browns as well, so I'm liking the Bucks. Again, I wish I had the +6. I took the +5 in one of my picks. Hopefully that 1 point's not going to be my demise, but nevertheless, let's see how we did last week before we talk about week 9. It's accountability time here on $10 Sports, and we'll bring up Enrod's picks first. Not doing too bad. He likes going with his 6-way parlay or 6-leg parlay, and actually went. Did he go 300? He went 300. I think the Colts was a tough one. That's one of my picks as well. Colts pulling it off, but not winning by 6.5. Not winning by a touchdown. That's for sure. Way wrong on the Bucks, and way wrong on the Panthers. That was one pick we for sure did not agree on. I knew the 49ers were going to blow the doors off of the Panthers. Kyle Allen was due for a bad game. So that was a interesting pick to go straight up. Not that Carolina or not that San Francisco didn't cover the spread, winning. It was like 51-17 or something like that. Something ridiculous like 51-13. So that was by far covering the spread. So kind of an interesting pick outright. You probably heard it on $10 Sports. Did the Bucks deserve to win that game? Probably not, but they were in it, and then they probably could have won the game had a call or two gone their way like it should have. So that actually might have been a pretty solid pick should the the phantom whistle after the Bucks drilled the punter on a fake field goal. So it might come doing really well, 3-3, evening up the record. And you'll see down below at the lower ticker our records cumulatively through week 8. I finally broke through the 500 barrier, I think, or I think I just got to 500. I think Mike's a couple of games below on his picks. He takes a lot more risk. He likes going for the big payouts. Hasn't hit one yet. So let's look at Moose's picks from last week. and 3-2. Two games we had in common. I think I put my bets in later because I ended up with Packers -4 somehow, and Jags I took them to win straight up. I felt pretty good with them against the Jets. Kind of some bad beats here. I picked the winners, but they didn't cover the spread. Indianapolis with a close win against the Broncos, and the Lions pulling off the win against the Giants, but it was close. It was a 5-point game. The Colts game, was that a 2-pointer or a 1-pointer? Yeah, 15-13, a 2-point game. So again, I hit the winners. I picked the winners here, but did not get the spreads on these. So a little bit of a loss there for us. So we'll go 3-2. Patriots by the skin of their teeth covering the spread. Packers winning pretty comfortably, as well as the Jaguars winning outright. So you have 3-2 for Moose, 3-3 for Mike. Not a bad week. It was kind of a tough slate of games, but most games went the way they were supposed to. So before we get into parlay of the week, let's take a look at this week's games, and we'll identify a couple no-goes. And then 1 p.m. or early slate games are actually on your right-hand side. Now, kind of flop the screen here, so we're looking at our right-hand side, starting with the Texans and Jaguars. I think it's the last game in London. This one at Wembley, not at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium like the last few have been. Texans and Jaguars. Kind of surprised that the spread is this close. I know DeAndre Hopkins has been in and out of injury. I've been getting the alerts on fantasy. Questionable, healthy, questionable, healthy. Hopefully he goes, and he's had kind of a quiet year. Definitely in the fantasy sense, unfortunately. And really hasn't slowed down the Texans. I think the loss of J.J. Watt, I mean, does that really hurt? Because it's almost like an expectation at this point. It seems like he just gets injured every year, and they're facing adversity, and they'll end up winning the division. Even though I think I like the Colts this year. And then they'll have their complimentary first round playoff blowout where they will get blown out by whoever they play, and that's your Houston Texans season usually, right? So playing the Jaguars, this is a game I think you can pick, and I think you take the Texans. Again, it's a neutral field, even though the Jaguars are considered the home team. I love the stash. I love the magic of Gardner Minshew, but I think the Texans, even despite the loss of J.J. Watt, I think can overcome his loss and control the Jaguars. Look for a good game from Leonard Fournette, however. Maybe pushing, instead of running between the tackles, maybe getting it outside with the loss of J.J. Watt. Bears-Eagles, that's a game I just wanted to stay away from. I feel like the Eagles have been up and down all year. They either play their best game of their season, or they play the worst game of their season. It seems like every other week. And the Bears, I can't rely on that defense solely to win games. And it's actually pretty incredible that they are not favored despite the strength of their defense. But again, it's the Mitchell Trubisky factor coming into play. If you have to pick this one, maybe safe, just Eagles straight up. I think this could be a close game. And if you're looking at over-under, this could be a pretty solid under pick for you if you're doing the early games. Colts Steelers, basically, you call it a pick'em. Probably it'll close at a pick'em. Kind of is puzzling. I know we had the news of T.Y. Hilton being out, and perhaps for a few weeks. But is that really enough to beat to only beat the Steelers by one, despite being at the Steelers? And I'm pretty sure Mason Rudolph is likely done for the year. Did he make a miraculous comeback I missed? I don't even know who's starting quarterback for the Steelers this week. But a little bit of disrespect there, I think, for the Colts and Jacoby Brissett. They still have plenty of weapons. They have Marlon Mack. Ebron has been having an up-and-down year, so I feel like this is a little bit of a gift here. Colts -1. Washington Redskins, Buffalo Bills, your typical big spread for the Redskins. Really curious who's going to take the title of worst team in the league this year. Wonder if the Redskins pull one off eventually. The Dolphins have looked great at points, especially against the Steelers on last week's Monday Night Football game, almost pulling it off. and ruining Moose's monster teaser, which we'll talk about when we get to this week's monster teaser and the results of that. Liking the Panthers to bounce back against the Titans. Tannehill looked great against the Buccaneers. And then, of course, that's the Buccaneers' kryptonite, right? Backup quarterbacks and rookie quarterbacks make their first start. They look great against the Buccaneers. Apparently, I think the Panthers' defense is a little bit tougher, especially in the secondary. It seemed like Tannehill had... Secondary didn't play terribly for the Buccaneers last week, like we talked about on Buc'ing Hangover, but especially when they had short fields and most of their scoring drives were 20 yards, 8 yards, another 20-yard drive for a field goal when we were turning the ball over on their half of the field. Jets, Dolphins, I stayed away from this one, and I would not be surprised if the Dolphins finally do it here. You heard it here first. Dolphins, I'm not confident enough to put money on it, but I could say that the Dolphins, I think, are going to pull off their first win against the Jets at home. Moving on to the later games here on your left-hand side. Emrad's heading to the Bucks Seahawks games that we were talking about earlier. Line's been shifting a little bit down if you're a Bucks fan, at only 5 points. I think I would still take the 5 points here if you're a Bucks fan and wanting to bet on the Bucks for whatever reason. Mostly because the Seahawks play their games close. Do they have a blowout in them? I don't think Josh Gordon's on the field for the next few weeks, so one less weapon for the Bucks to worry about in the secondary. But I don't know. I think this could be a sneaky game. Reading some of the Reddits, the subreddits on the Seattle Seahawks page, people are feeling not confident about this game, thinking that the Seahawks are maybe looking forward to the 49ers next week, overlooking the Buccaneers. That Buccaneers front seven is among the best. And if they can get some pressure on Wilson and shut down Chris Carson, could be a surprise. Lions, Raiders, I think this will be an entertaining game. Stayed away from this one. Again, Raiders kind of overperforming, in my opinion. I know they don't have the results in the wins-loss column yet, but I think they could go on a run, especially with the Chargers having a down year this year and a little bit of uncertainty in KC with Mahomes being out for a few weeks, so they could take advantage here. This is as close to a must-win as you get to the Raiders to get that run going against the Lions. The Lions have looked strong. I mean, they're almost kind of a quiet contender out of the North. I mean, I think you're going to look at Green Bay to win that division because I think the true Minnesota will come out in the stretch run. But wouldn't be surprised if Detroit's in the hunt in the next few weeks for a 5 or a 6 seed in the playoffs. Packers Chargers, I think. I'm not. Other than the Packers traveling out west, maybe that's why it's so close. I think you could confidently take Packers minus 3.5. If you're not feeling as confident for the point spread, I would definitely take the Packers straight up. Browns Broncos, I think is going to be interesting, and you'll see below on the below ticker as we move to our other content. This is one of my over-unders, and I'm thinking it's going to go over the 39. I think there'll be some points scored. Who's starting quarterback for the Broncos? What's his name? Getting injured. I don't. Did he get? It's interesting. He got mysteriously injured after the press conference. I don't know. Joe Flacco telling the truth, telling it like it is, and now out for a few weeks. I think that's a solid win for the Browns there. I would almost feel confident taking the points. Maybe the Denver defense keeps it closer than it may have been otherwise, but I'd feel confident taking the points there. Patriots Ravens. This one has been closing up as well. I think my gut tells me this is going to be a close one, but I just don't like the 3.5. I think if you got another point on there, Ravens at 4.5, maybe Ravens at 5, I would have taken the Ravens on the spread. But here I think you got to bet New England Patriots until they lose at least, right? Then that's the Sunday night game. Monday Night Football, finally, potentially a decent game on Monday night. Cowboys, I think, coming back off a bye week, getting some rest, hopefully getting everything together to play the Giants in New Jersey. Cowboys minus 7.5 and of course heavy favorites in terms of winning straight up. I'd feel fairly confident about the -7 with them as well. So let's look at the Week 9 slate. Let's take a look at what we ended up with. We got Mike's $10 parlay of the week. Mike loves going big. He goes for those big payouts right now, looking at 766. And I know we all laugh at him now, but I know he's going to hit one of these one day, and he's going to shoot ahead in the standings as well in terms of money. Now, my tortoise strategy is just going to backfire eventually. I know he's going to hit one of these. Not sure if this is going to be the week he gets it, though. Jets -3, certainly an interesting decision there. And Patriots -3.5, I think that's safe. Taking the Bears as an underdog against the Eagles? Yeah, I'd say that game is as close to the toss-up as it gets. If the Bears defense can get to Wentz, so they've looked shaky with a little bit of pressure on there. It thrown him off his game. Eagles fall apart. The Eagles defense is atrocious. They might have a secondary that's worse than the Buccaneers. They've really struggled on the perimeter. Panthers -3.5. I like. Man, really going Giants +7. Man, he must be hating on those Cowboys. I think that might be the game that gets him there. The Giants +7. But we'll see. Hopefully he gets to that point. I think Jaguars, Texans. I think they can go either way. It's not too much hate for the Jaguars pick there, but I think the big liability has to be the New York +7. I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised if the New York +7 hits. So let's look at Moose's picks. I like my 5. I like my 5s. And I'm taking the opposite of the Jaguars. I'm going to go ahead and take the Texans -2. Packers, straight up, just playing it a little bit safe. Again, kind of going with the tortoise strategy. What was that spread? I think 3.5 when we were looking. Being out on the West Coast, kind of a weird atmosphere. 20,000 probably Packer fans at the game. I don't like when East or Midwest teams go out west. Packers just to be safe there. Taking my Brownies. I know I was big on the bandwagon week 1, week 2, where it kind of hurt me a little bit. But we're back with the Browns. I think they take care of business against the Broncos and win by probably a touchdown or so. Also taking the Cats, the Panthers at -3.5. And again, I kind of thought the gift here, Colts -1 against the Steelers. I feel like this is a safe pick, but what do I know? Probably next week we'll be talking about the Steelers blowout win over the Colts or something like that. So let's see how we do this week. Potential prize of 202.36 if we hit all 5. Feeling pretty confident about these. If I had to pick a hang-up, potential hang-up, maybe Panthers, Titans. If Tannehill has a decent game, maybe. Maybe the point spread kind of comes into play here, because if it's a field goal difference, that's going to be a bad beat there. So if I had to pick, be suspect, it'd be the Panthers pick for me. So Moose's Monster teaser in a big headline. And if you follow us on Twitter, remember I'm at $10 Sports, $10 Sports. I hit my teaser last week. I was so happy. A nail biter at the end with the Steelers, Dolphins. I needed Steelers -7, and with the Dolphins going up 14-0, I was really sad because I think it was a 9-leg teaser that we went for last week, and got the first 8 just relying on Steelers -7. I thought it was a lock, and when I saw that score 14-0, I was like, oh, really? This is the day the Dolphins are going to come through, but thankfully, Steelers pulled it off. They were able to pull it off and get the big win. Sigh of relief. Collective breath. Feeling all right. Big $200 win on the teaser. So we're putting some of that back into this one. We only got a 7-way teaser here, and I'm feeling confident about this one too. I took some of the same games that I had for the $10 parlay. So, for instance, Texans. But I only took 6 points this time. The teaser I took last week was 7 points. I didn't like what 7 points was paying this week, so went with the 6. So Texans +4, Colts +5. They were at -1, so they moved to +5. Packers go to +2.5. So hopefully it's not a field goal. Maybe I should have gone for the 6.5 there to get the push, but brings down the Cowboys to -1.5. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think they're going to win anyway. Ravens get almost a 10-point cushion against the Patriots. I think that's going to be a closer game than we think. So I like that cushion of 9.5 there. Bucks +11, I think, is pretty appropriate. However, if I think a game is going to hang me up, it's going to be that Bucks game. Maybe the Seahawks are due for a breakout game, and again, no better medicine than the Buccaneers secondary. And Bills brings it down to -4.5 against the Redskins. I mean, the Bills' offense has looked interesting as of late. Hopefully the weather won't be a factor. I haven't even looked at what the weather is going to... Hopefully it's not a torrential downpour like last weeks have been, right? And so that brings us to Bills -4.5. Feeling pretty confident about this one. Maybe another $200 my way. I'd really like that. Then we got our over-under picks as we wrap up. We talked about Texans Jaguars. I'm liking over 47 for them. I think I'm going all overs for the 1 p.m.s here. Titans Panthers, I think over 42.5. And I liked over 36 for Bills Redskins. I think maybe the Bills offense starts to actually get in gear and score a few points and show that they belong in the playoffs and honestly in discussion with other upper echelon teams. So liking the overs here, all overs. And then for the 4 p.m., kind of thinking that the Bucs Seahawks might be under 53. I think 53 was the highest point total they had this week for all the games, and I think I'm going to bring it down under. And I think we talked about it before. I feel like under is the don't pass bet of the sports gambling world, right? Under, or the don't pass on craps. No one's really cheering for it. No one's cheering for under, right? Under 53 for the Buccaneers, and I'm going to take the over 34. We talked about Browns and Broncos, and I think over 44.5 for Baltimore and New England. I think that brings us to the end of our episode. Hope you had a great time. Hope some of these picks were helpful. Make some money. Tell me where I've gotten it wrong. Feel free to leave some comments there for me if you agree or disagree. We'd love to have friendly conversation. Always follow us on Twitter at $10 Sports, $10 Sports for me. Emrod is at Balls Brews Bros, at Balls Brews Bros on Twitter. Make sure to hit both of us up. Give the video a like. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got tons of content coming out every week. Probably about 3 videos a week or so. When you're combining Buc'ing Hangover and the Thunderdome Puckcast, our Lightning-specific show. Don't get me started about the game tonight. Lightning with a 5-2 loss against the Islanders. The next Thunderdome Puckcast is probably the frustration is going to boil over, but we'll probably do that somewhere in the weekend as the Lightning head off now to Sweden to play 2 games against the Atlantic-leading Buffalo Sabres. Can you believe that? I had them in the playoffs. I didn't have them leading the division. Thank you so much. It's been great. Have a great Friday night or Saturday morning, whatever you're watching the video. It's been Moose with $10 Sports. Have a great night.
10
Dollar
Sports.